Dennis King's eyes widened as he caught sight of Alter's small form. The Osean female's dull skin contrasted sharply with the vibrant hues of her larger companions. She averted her gaze, visibly uncomfortable with her role as liaison to the human soldier on the alien world of Eidos. First contact with humanity had brought hope of salvation against a looming threat. Dennis, part of Earth's diplomatic mission, stood before the Osean High Council. The cavernous chamber buzzed with anticipation, as both species sought a military alliance to combat their common enemy. "To seal our pact, you must participate in our sacred bonding ritual," the lead counselor announced, gesturing towards Alter. Dennis swallowed hard, unprepared for this cultural twist. He glanced at Alter, noting her evident anxiety. The small Okisian trembled slightly, her lack of experience and perceived unattractiveness weighing heavily upon her. As Dennis opened his mouth to protest, an urgent transmission cut through the tense atmosphere. Earth's colonies were under attack. The enemy had launched a surprise offensive, leaving human defenses scrambling. The need for Opasian support became critical. "You have 24 hours to complete the ritual," the counselor declared. "Failure will result in immediate expulsion from Eidos." In space, the gravity of the situation settled on Dennis's shoulders. Earth's fate now rested on his ability to navigate alien bonding customs with a partner who seemed equally reluctant. Escorted to his quarters to prepare, Dennis's mind raced him. How could he overcome his reservations and complete this task? As he changed into the ceremonial garments provided, the door suddenly slid open. Alter stood frozen in the doorway, her large eyes fixated on Dennis's exposed form. Her gaze lingered on his anatomy, so drastically different from Omasian physiology. "Of you." A flicker of curiosity replaced the fear in her expression. Dennis hastily covered himself, but the moment had passed. Something had shifted between them. A spark of mutual intrigue amidst the awkwardness. As Alter retreated, stammering apologies, Dennis realized the complexity of the challenge ahead. Not only did he need to navigate unfamiliar bonding practices, but he also had to bridge the gap between their species' physical differences. Time ticked away, as cultural misunderstandings arose at every turn. The ritual's intricate steps baffled Dennis, while Alter struggled to reconcile her preconceptions with the reality of human physiology. With each passing hour, the Osean High Council grew more impatient. Their warning echoed in Dennis's mind. Failure meant expulsion, leaving Earth vulnerable to the advancing enemy fleet. As night fell on Eidos, Dennis and Alter faced a daunting task. They had mere hours to overcome their physical and cultural differences, complete the ritual, and secure the alliance that could save both their species. The fate of two worlds now rested on the unlikely pairing of a human soldier and an alien girl, thrust together by circumstance and duty. Dennis stood before the mirror, adjusting the unfamiliar ceremonial garments. His mind raced with the weight of Earth's fate resting on his shoulders. The door to his quarters slid open with a soft hiss, revealing Alter's small form. "We need to talk," Dennis said, his voice steady despite the tension coursing through him. Alter nodded, her large eyes darting nervously around the room. "Follow me," she whispered, leading Dennis out of his quarters and through winding corridors. They emerged into a vast chamber filled with alien flora. Bioluminescent plants cast a soft, ethereal glow over the Osean botanical gardens. Alter stopped near a cluster of shimmering bell-shaped flowers. "I know this is difficult," Dennis began, his gaze fixed on Alter's dull skin. "But we don't have a choice. Earth is under attack, and without this alliance, both our species could be in danger." Alter's fingers traced the delicate petals of a nearby plant. "I understand," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "The ritual. It must be completed." Dennis nodded, relief washing over him. "Thank you. I know this isn't easy for you either." Alter's large eyes met his, a flicker of curiosity replacing her earlier trepidation. "Come," she said, leading Dennis deeper into the gardens. "We must prepare." In the sacred ritual chamber they entered a massive cavern, its walls alive with pulsating, glowing vegetation. In the center stood a stern-faced Ocasian, his elongated limbs crossed in front of him. "I am High Priest Zakor," he intoned, his voice echoing through the chamber. "I will oversee the bonding ritual." Dennis and Alter listened intently as Zachar explained the intricate steps of the ceremony. The first challenge involved navigating a complex maze while physically connected. As they approached the maze's entrance, Dennis felt Alter's small hand grasp his arm. Her touch sent an unexpected shiver through him. They entered the twisting passages, their bodies pressed close in the narrow confines. Alter's breath quickened as they maneuvered through the maze, her eyes roaming over Dennis's form, taking in the alien contours of his muscles and the texture of his skin. Dennis, too, found himself acutely aware of Alter's presence, her alien physiology both strange and intriguing. Suddenly, a piercing alarm shattered the silence. Holographic displays materialized around them, showing a fleet of enemy ships entering Occasion space. "We must go," Dennis said urgently. "The High Council will need us." They rushed to the council chambers, where they found the Opasian leaders in a state of controlled panic. A gruff-looking Oshatian, with battle scars across his face, approached them. "I am Admiral Krill," he growled. "Human, what do you know of this attack?" Dennis studied the tactical displays, his military training kicking in. "It's a surprise offensive," he said, pointing to key positions. "But there's a weakness in their formation here and here. If we combine our forces, we can launch a counterattack that could catch them off guard." Admiral Krill's eyes narrowed. "And why should we trust the strategy of an alien we barely know?" To Dennis's surprise, Alter stepped forward. "The bonding ritual has already begun," she said, her voice stronger than he'd ever heard it. "A bond is forming between our species. Dennis has proven himself a worthy ally." The council murmured among themselves, then nodded in agreement. "Very well," the lead counselor said. "We will implement the human strategy." As preparations for the counterattack began, Dennis and Alter found themselves working side by side, coordinating between the human and Ophasian forces. Dennis couldn't help but admire Alter's quick thinking and diplomatic skills as she smoothed over cultural misunderstandings. During a tense moment, Dennis accidentally used a human gesture that caused an Ocean officer to recoil in shock. Before the situation could escalate, Alter intervened, explaining the cultural difference and deftly diffusing the tension. "In human culture, that gesture means good luck," she explained to the offended officer. Dennis meant no disrespect. As the combined fleet prepared to launch, Dennis realized they had yet to complete the next stage of the ritual. "We need to go back," he said to Alter. "We have to finish at least the next part before I can join the battle." They raced back to the ritual chamber where High Priest Zachor awaited them. "The second challenge," he intoned, "requires perfect synchronization. You must move as one, anticipating and responding to each other's actions." Dennis and Alter stood face to face, their bodies close as they began the intricate dance-like movements. Dennis found himself captivated by Alter's grace. Her earlier awkwardness had vanished, replaced by a fluid confidence that took his breath away. Their bodies moved in harmony, each anticipating the other's movements with surprising ease. Dennis felt a connection forming between them, transcending their physical differences. Just as they neared the completion of this phase, alarms blared once again. The enemy fleet had begun its assault on the outermost Ogasian defense platforms. Dennis locked eyes with Alter, seeing his own willpower reflected in her gaze. They had to finish enough of the ritual to satisfy Ogasian law, allowing Dennis to lead the counterattack and cement the alliance that could save both their worlds. As they raced to complete the challenge, Dennis realized that his initial reservations had vanished. In Alter, he had found not just an alien liaison, but a partner he could trust in the face of overwhelming odds. The fate of two worlds hung in the balance as Dennis and Alter pushed themselves to their limits, striving to forge a bond that could withstand the coming storm. Dennis and Alter moved in perfect synchronization, their bodies flowing through the intricate steps of the ritual's second challenge. As they neared completion, alarms blared throughout the chamber, shattering their concentration. The harsh sound signaled the enemy's assault on Ocean's outer defenses. Dennis faltered, his movements becoming uncoordinated as he struggled to anticipate Alter's alien physiology. Sweat beaded on his forehead as he fought to regain his rhythm. Alter, sensing his difficulty, took charge. Her small hand grasped his firmly, guiding him through the complex motions with surprising strength and grace. "Follow my lead," she whispered, her large eyes locked onto his. Dennis nodded, allowing himself to be swept along by Alter's fluid movements. As they completed the final steps, a gasp escaped his lips. Alter's dull skin began to change, taking on a soft, bioluminescent glow that pulsed in time with her rapid heartbeat. The sight captivated Dennis, momentarily distracting him from the chaos unfolding beyond the ritual chamber. High Priest Zakor's voice cut through Dennis's reverie. "The second stage is complete," he intoned, his elongated face betraying a hint of admiration. "But you must finish the third and final challenge before you can join the battle."
Before Dennis could protest, the chamber doors burst open.
Admiral Krill stormed in, his battle-scarred face contorted with urgency.
"Human, we need you on the command ship now. The enemy has breached our outer defenses."
Zakor stepped between Dennis and the Admiral, his tall frame dripping with authority. "You cannot interrupt the sacred bonding ritual," he hastened. "It is forbidden by our most ancient laws." As the two Osean leaders argued, their voices rising to match the blaring alarms, Dennis felt torn. The fate of both Earth and Eidos hung in the balance. Yet the alliance hinged on completing this ritual. He opened his mouth to speak, but Alter beat him to it. "Wait!" she called out, her voice stronger and more confident than Dennis had ever heard it. "There is another way." I invoke the law of exigent circumstance. The chamber fell silent, all eyes turning to the small Osean female. Even Zakor looked taken aback. Alter continued, her skin still glowing softly. "This ancient law allows for a temporary pause in the ritual. Under extreme circumstances, we can resume once the immediate threat has passed."
Zak's eyes narrowed, but he nodded reluctantly.
"Very well. The ritual will be paused, but it must be completed within one planetary rotation of its resumption."
Relief washed over Dennis as he turned to Alter.
"Thank you," he said softly, marveling at her quick thinking. Admiral Krill wasted no time ushering them out of the chamber and towards the waiting shuttle. As they raced through the corridors, Dennis couldn't help but notice the way Alter's bioluminescent glow faded, leaving him with an inexplicable sense of loss. The shuttle ride to the command ship was tense, filled with the sounds of distant explosions and frantic communications chatter. As they stepped onto the bridge, Dennis's military training kicked in.
He quickly assessed the tactical displays, his mind racing to formulate a strategy.
"We've lost 3 defense platforms and 2 heavy cruisers," Admiral Krill growled, gesturing to the holographic battle map. Dennis studied the enemy formation, noticing a pattern in their attack vectors. "There," he said, pointing to a seemingly innocuous section of space. They're leaving a gap in their flank. If we combine our forces here and here, we can exploit that weakness."
Admiral Krill's eyes narrowed skeptically.
"And why should we trust the strategy of an alien we barely know?" To Dennis's surprise, Alter stepped forward. "Admiral, Dennis has already proven himself a worthy ally. Through the ritual, his outsider perspective may be exactly what we need to turn the tide of this battle." The Admiral considered her words, then nodded grudgingly. "Very well, we'll implement the human strategy, but if this fails, the consequences will be on both your heads."
As the combined human and Osean fleet moved into position, Dennis found himself working closely with Alter. She seamlessly translated his orders to the Osean crew, her diplomatic skills smoothing over any cultural misunderstandings. During a particularly tense moment, Dennis accidentally used a gesture that caused an Osean officer to recoil in shock. Before the situation could escalate, Alter intervened, explaining the cultural difference and deftly diffusing the tension.
"In human culture, that gesture means good luck," she explained to the offended officer. Dennis meant no disrespect. As the battle raged on, Dennis's innovative tactics began to pay off. The combined fleet exploited the weakness he had identified, catching the enemy off guard. Osean ships, with their superior maneuverability, darted through the gaps in the enemy formation, while human vessels provided heavy fire support. In a rare moment of calm, Dennis and Alter found themselves alone on the ship's observation deck. They watched as the battle unfolded before them, streaks of weapons fire illuminating the vast darkness of space. "We make a good team," Dennis said softly, turning to face Alter. She met his gaze, her large eyes reflecting the distant flashes of combat. "Yes, we do," she replied, her voice barely above a whisper. The intensity of the moment, fueled by the adrenaline of battle and their growing connection, pulled them closer. Dennis felt an overwhelming urge to reach out and touch Alter's face, to feel the texture of her alien skin beneath his fingers. Just as their bodies began to lean towards each other, A violent impact rocked the ship. Alarms blared as the artificial gravity failed, sending Dennis and Alter tumbling through the air. Emergency lights bathed the observation deck in an eerie red glow as they struggled to orient themselves in the sudden zero gravity. "Hold on!" Dennis shouted, reaching out to grab Alter's small form. He managed to secure them both to a nearby bulkhead, their bodies pressed close in the chaotic weightlessness. The ship shuddered again, and a new alarm joined the cacophony. A nearby console flashed an urgent message. "Life support failing. Evacuate immediately." Dennis's mind raced as he assessed their options. "We need to get to the escape pods," he said, his voice steady despite the panic threatening to overwhelm him. "Can you guide us there?" Alter nodded, her eyes wide but determined. "Follow me," she said, pushing off from the bulkhead with surprising strength. They made their way through the damaged vessel, navigating corridors filled with floating debris and injured crew members. Dennis and Alter worked together, helping those they could and directing others towards the escape pods. As they neared the pod bay, another explosion rocked the ship. Dennis caught a glimpse of the destruction through a ruptured hull section. The command ship was breaking apart, debris scattering into the void of space. They reached the escape pod bay to find only one functional pod remaining. Dennis's heart sank as he realized the pod couldn't accommodate everyone. Without hesitation, he began ushering the injured crew members inside. "Alter, go with them," he said, his voice tight with emotion. "I'll stay behind and make sure you launch safely." Alter's eyes widened in shock, then narrowed with dedication. "No," she said firmly. "I won't leave you behind." Before Dennis could argue, Alter's small form tensed with a display of strength that belied her size. She grabbed Dennis and pulled him into the escape pod along with the others. The door sealed shut behind them as Alter's hand slammed the launch button. The pod jettisoned from the failing command ship, and through the viewport, they watched as the vessel exploded in a brilliant silent flash. The shockwave hit their small craft, sending it tumbling end over end into the depths of space. As Dennis fought to regain control of the pod, he realized their ordeal was just getting started. The battle still raged around them, and their damaged craft was losing power, veering off course into uncharted territory. He turned to Alter, seeing his own mix of fear and commitment reflected in her alien eyes. Together, they faced the unknown. Their unlikely partnership was now the key to survival in a hostile universe. The escape pod hurtled through space, tumbling end over end as Dennis fought to stabilize their trajectory. Alter clung to a nearby handhold, her luminescent skin pulsing with each violent shake of the craft. The injured Ocean crew members huddled together, their alien features contorted in pain and fear as the pod systems began to fail. Dennis caught sight of a nearby planet through the viewport, its surface glowing with an eerie bioluminescent light. "Alter, can you read those instruments?" Dennis shouted over the blaring alarms. She quickly scanned the alien console. "The atmosphere appears breathable, but I can't guarantee it's safe for humans." Dennis nodded grimly. "We don't have a choice. Brace for impact." The pod plummeted through the planet's atmosphere, heat building around its hull. Dennis gritted his teeth, using every ounce of his piloting skills to guide their descent. With a bone-jarring crash, they hit the forest floor, the pod's hull crumpling on impact. For a moment, all was silent. Then Dennis stirred, pushing aside a tangle of alien vines that had burst through the cracked viewport. He turned to Alter, relieved to see her moving. "Everyone all right?" he called out, receiving a chorus of pained groans in response. As the first rays of an alien sun filtered through the mist, Dennis and Alter emerged from the wreckage. The forest around them pulsed with an otherworldly glow, bioluminescent plants casting a soft blue-green light across the landscape. Dennis took a deep breath, then immediately regretted it. A sharp, acrid taste filled his mouth, and he felt a wave of dizziness wash over him. "The air," he gasped. "Something's not right." Alter, however, seemed invigorated. "It's similar to Os," she said, her large eyes wide with wonder. "But you're right. There's something different." As Alter tended to the injured crew members, Dennis began salvaging what he could from the wreckage. His military training kicked in as he assessed their situation. Food, water, shelter. These were their immediate priorities. Hours passed as they worked to establish a makeshift camp. Dennis constructed crude shelters from the pod's debris and the strange rubbery leaves of nearby plants. Alter, drawing on her knowledge of ocean biology, used local flora to create poultices for the wounded. As night fell, Dennis found himself increasingly short of breath. He approached Alter, who was examining a piece of functioning equipment from the pod. "I think the air here is toxic to humans," he said, trying to keep his voice steady. "Long-term exposure could be dangerous." Alter's luminescent skin dimmed with concern. "We need to find a way off this planet, and soon." She held up the device in her hands. "This is a long-range communicator. It's damaged, but I think we can repair it enough to send a distress signal." They worked through the night, Dennis's expertise with human technology complementing Alter's understanding of ocean systems. As dawn broke, they managed to send out a weak signal. "Now we wait," Dennis said, fighting back another wave of dizziness. Alter nodded, her large eyes filled with worry. "We should explore our surroundings, find food and water sources." As they ventured deeper into the forest, the differences in their biology became starkly apparent. Alter easily identified several plants similar to Odesian vegetation, safe for her and the crew to eat. Dennis, however, was limited to the dwindling rations from the escape pod. "We need to find something you can eat," Alter said, her voice tinged with frustration. Dennis managed a weak smile. "I'm more worried about the air. The food can wait." Their exploration was cut short by a low, menacing growl from the underbrush. A pack of creatures, unlike anything Dennis had ever seen, emerged. They resembled a nightmarish fusion of wolves and giant insects, their chitinous bodies gleaming in the bioluminescent light. Dennis reached for his sidearm, only to find an empty holster. He cursed, remembering he had removed it for the ritual back on Eidos. The creatures attacked with frightening speed. Dennis fell back on his hand-to-hand combat training, using a broken piece of the pod as a makeshift weapon. Beside him, Alter moved with surprising agility, her small form darting between the beasts. "The plants!" Alter shouted, gesturing to a cluster of bulbous growths nearby. "Crush them!" Dennis complied, smashing the bulbs. A pungent odor filled the air, causing the creatures to recoil. Taking advantage of their distraction, Dennis and Alter retreated to the camp. As they caught their breath, Dennis felt his legs give way. He collapsed to the ground, his vision swimming. "Dennis!" Alter cried, rushing to his side. Her cool hands cradled his face as she examined him with growing panic. "The air!" Dennis gasped. "It's getting worse." Alter's mind raced. She glanced at the ruins of the escape pod, then back to Dennis. An idea formed, born of desperation in their unique partnership. "We need to enhance the communicator," she said, her voice filled with persistence. "It's our only chance of getting you off this planet alive." As they turned to head back to the camp, the ground beneath their feet began to tremble. Fissures appeared in the forest floor, releasing plumes of noxious gas. The planet itself seemed to be turning against them. Dennis and Alter locked eyes. The gravity of their situation reflected in each other's gaze. They had survived a space battle and a crash landing, but their greatest challenge still lay ahead. With time running out and danger lurking in every shadow of this alien world, they knew that their only hope for survival lay in the strength of their newfound bond. As they shared a determined look, the ground beneath their feet lurched violently, nearly throwing them off balance. The tremors intensified, sending shockwaves through the alien forest. "We need to get back to the camp!" Dennis shouted over the rumbling earth, his voice strained from the effort of breathing the toxic air. Alter nodded, supporting Dennis as they made their way through the quaking landscape. The bioluminescent plants pulsed erratically, casting eerie shadows that danced across the forest floor. As they approached the camp, a new sound cut through the chaos. The whine of engines. Dennis looked up, his vision blurring, to see several aircraft descending through the misty atmosphere. "Are those?" he began, unable to finish his sentence as another wave of dizziness washed over him. "Yes," Alter confirmed, her eyes wide with a mix of relief and concern. "But we can't wait for them. Your condition is deteriorating rapidly." She guided Dennis to the alien stasis pod they had uncovered earlier in the ruins. The sleek, otherworldly device stood in stark contrast to the crude camp around it. "Alter, what are you doing?" Dennis asked, his breath coming in short gasps. "It's our only option," she replied, her fingers dancing over the pod's control panel. "This stasis field should protect you from further exposure to the planet's atmosphere." Dennis wanted to argue, But another violent tremor shook the ground, and he knew she was right. With Alter's help, he climbed into the pod, his body feeling heavier with each movement. "I've never operated one of these before," Alter admitted, her luminescent skin flickering with anxiety. "But I believe I understand the basic principles." Dennis managed a weak smile. "I trust you," he said, reaching out to squeeze her hand. Alter's large eyes met his, and for a moment, the chaos around them faded away. Then she turned back to the controls, her expression set with grit. The pod hummed to life, a shimmering energy field enveloping Dennis. He felt a sudden chill, then a wave of numbness spreading through his body. His eyelids grew heavy, and the last thing he saw before slipping into unconsciousness was Alter's concerned face peering down at him. Moments later, the aircraft landed in a nearby clearing. Admiral Krill, a tall, imposing figure with a prominent facial scar, led a mixed team of humans and Occasion towards the camp. "Admiral!" Alter called out, relief evident in her voice. "We have wounded, and Dennis. He's in stasis. The atmosphere sphere is toxic to humans." Krill nodded grimly. "We received your distress signal. The battle's been won, thanks in no small part to the strategy Dennis devised earlier."
As the rescue team began to assess the situation and tend to the wounded, a massive earthquake rocked the planet. The ground split open near the ruins, and a section of ancient stonework collapsed onto the stasis pod containing Dennis. "No!" Alter cried, rushing towards the debris. She began frantically clearing away the rubble, her small hands bleeding from the sharp edges of the alien stone. Admiral Krill barked orders, and soon the entire rescue team was working to free the stasis pod. But their efforts were hampered by the planet's increasing instability and the toxic atmosphere, which began to affect the human members of the team. As they dug, they uncovered more alien technology. Alter's eyes widened as she recognized a device similar to Ohesian weather control systems. "Admiral," she called out, gesturing to the device. "I think this might be causing the planet's instability. It appears to be malfunctioning." Before Krill could respond, a chilling howl echoed through the forest. The predatory creatures they had encountered earlier emerged from the underbrush, their chitinous bodies gleaming in the erratic light of the bioluminescent plants. "Defensive positions!" Krill shouted, drawing his weapon. The rescue team split into two groups, one continuing to dig for Dennis, and the other forming a perimeter to fend off the approaching beasts. Alter refused to leave Dennis's side, working tirelessly to clear the debris. Her willpower seemed to inspire the others, and they redoubled their efforts. Just as they managed to unearth the stasis pod, a massive tremor shook the ground. A chasm opened beneath their feet, threatening to swallow the pod and everyone around it. The rescue ship, unable to land due to the unstable terrain, hovered nearby. Alter and two Ocean crew members quickly attached cables from the ship to the stasis pod, preparing to airlift it to safety. As the winch system began to lift the pod, one of the cables snapped with a sharp twang. The pod swung precariously, threatening to slip from its restraints. Without hesitation, Alter leapt onto the swinging pod, using her body to stabilize it. Her actions allowed the rescue team to regain control and successfully pull the pod into the ship. But as the pod cleared the ship's hold, Alter lost her grip. She plummeted back towards the collapsing ruins, her small form disappearing into the chaos below. "Alter!" Krill shouted, horror etched on his face. Suddenly, a small shuttle swooped in, piloted by a human named Jack Harris. With a daring maneuver, he positioned the shuttle beneath Alter, catching her mere meters from the ground. As Harris's shuttle raced to rejoin the main rescue ship, the planet's crust began to break apart. Rivers of magma bubbled up from the newly formed fissures, turning the once lush forest into an inferno. Safely aboard the rescue ship, Alter rushed to check on Dennis's stasis pod, her face falling as she saw the readings on the pod's control panel. "The power source is failing," she announced, her voice tight with worry. "We don't have the means to sustain it for the journey back to Ocean space." The ship's engineer, a grizzled human named Chen, shook his head. "We can't integrate it with our systems. The tech's too different." Alter's large eyes narrowed in concentration. "Maybe not," she said slowly. "But I think I might be able to adapt it. I've been studying the alien technology we found in the ruins." As Alter and Chen set to work on the stasis pod, Admiral Krill received an urgent communication. His face grew grim as he listened to the message. "We have another problem," he announced to the crew.
The enemy fleet left behind a doomsday device in orbit around the Oshasian homeworld. If we don't disarm it within 48 hours, it could render the entire planet uninhabitable. A heavy silence fell over the rescue ship as the enormity of their situation sank in. They were racing against time on multiple fronts. To save Dennis, to reach the Oshasian homeworld, and to prevent a catastrophe that could end millions of lives. Alter looked up from her work on the stasis pod, her eyes meeting Krill's. "We need to revive Dennis," she said firmly. "His military expertise could be crucial in disarming that device." Krill nodded grimly. "Do whatever it takes," he ordered. "We're going to need every advantage we can get." As the rescue ship accelerated towards Oshasian space, Alter turned back to the stasis pod. Her small hands moved with increasing confidence over the alien controls as she delved deeper into the intricacies of the technology. Suddenly, her eyes widened with realization. "I know how to safely revive him," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "But it's going to require something personal." The ship hurtled through space, carrying its crew towards an uncertain future. The fate of two species now rested on the shoulders of an unlikely pair: a human soldier in stasis and an Osean scientist willing to risk everything to save him. As they approached their destination, the true test of their partnership was about to begin. The rescue ship entered Oshasian orbit, its hull vibrating with the strain of atmospheric entry. In the makeshift medical bay, Alter's luminescent skin pulsed with nervous energy as she prepared for the risky procedure to revive Dennis from stasis. The room, hastily converted into a ritual chamber, hummed with a mixture of Osean technology and the alien stasis pod's unfamiliar energy signature. High Priest Zor's holographic form flickered to life, his ethereal presence filling the room with an air of solemnity. "Alter," he intoned, his voice resonating with ancient wisdom, "are you prepared to complete the final stage of the Osean bonding ritual?" Alter's large eyes fixed on Dennis's motionless form within the stasis pod. "I am," she replied, her voice steady despite the gravity of the situation. Under Zor's guidance, Alter placed her hands on the pod's surface. The chamber filled with a soft, pulsating light as the partial merging of nervous systems began. Alter gasped as the connection formed, her mind suddenly awash with fragments of Dennis's memories and emotions. She saw flashes of his childhood on Earth, felt the exhilaration of his first spaceflight, and experienced the crushing weight of his responsibilities as a soldier. The intimacy of the connection was overwhelming, but Alter forced herself to focus on the task at hand. Using her newfound understanding of human physiology, Alter carefully manipulated the pod's controls. Dennis's vital signs displayed on a nearby monitor began to stabilize. Slowly, methodically, she guided him out of stasis. As Dennis's eyes fluttered open, a surge of energy coursed through the neural link. Alter stumbled backward, her body racked with sudden intense sensations. The medical staff watched in astonishment as her dull skin began to shimmer with iridescent patterns, her small stature growing and reshaping to match the Ophasian ideal of beauty. Admiral Krill, observing via video feed, leaned forward in his chair, his scarred face etched with concern and fascination. "What in the name of the cosmos is happening?" he muttered. Dennis, still groggy from stasis, struggled to sit up. His eyes widened as he took in Alter's transformed appearance. "Alter?" he croaked, his voice hoarse from disuse. "Is that you?" Before she could respond, Chief Engineer Voxel burst into the chamber, his antenna twitching with excitement. "Admiral!" "We've detected unusual energy fluctuations from the enemy doomsday device," he reported breathlessly. "It appears to be powered by the same type of energy source we found in the alien ruins." Dennis swung his legs over the edge of the pod, his military training kicking in despite his weakened state. "That could be our way in," he said, his mind already racing with possibilities. "If we can understand how it works, we might be able to disarm it." Alter nodded, her newly elongated form moving with a grace that surprised even her. "The neural link help with that." "I think I can help with that. I have access to Dennis's tactical knowledge now." Over the next few hours, Dennis and Alter worked closely with Voxel and a team of human and Osean engineers to develop a plan, drawing on the knowledge gained from the alien ruins and Alter's enhanced understanding of the technology. They designed a disruptor beam capable of deactivating the doomsday device. As the team put the finishing touches on the disruptor, a new complication arose. Counselor Gengeva, a stern-faced Oshasian leader, arrived on the rescue ship. Her presence cast a shadow over the fragile alliance.
What is the meaning of this?
Genshiva demanded, her eyes fixed on Alter's transformed appearance. This alteration goes against everything we know about our physiology, and to perform the sacred bonding ritual under such circumstances, it's unprecedented. Dennis stepped forward, drawing on the insights he had gained through his connection with Alter. "High Counselor," he began, his voice calm but authoritative, "I understand your concerns. But right now we face a threat that endangers both our peoples. Alter's transformation may be unexpected, but it's given us a unique advantage in this crisis."
Genshiva's antenna twitched skeptically.
"And what advantage would that be, human?" "A shared understanding," Alter interjected, her new form seeming to radiate confidence. "Through our connection, we've gained insights that neither of our species possessed alone. It's allowed us to develop a plan to disarm the Doomsday device."
Dennis nodded, outlining their strategy to use the disruptor beam.
As he spoke, Alter found herself admiring his ability to navigate the delicate political situation.
She could sense the wheels turning in his mind, balancing tactical considerations with diplomatic nuance. Genshiva listened intently, her expression gradually softening. Your plan has merit," she admitted reluctantly. "But who will pilot the ship to deliver the disruptor beam? It's a suicide mission." Alter stepped forward, her iridescent skin shimmering with tenacity.
"I will," she declared. "My enhanced physiology makes me the ideal candidate."
Dennis's head snapped toward her, a mix of admiration and concern in his eyes.
"Now, not alone you won't," he said firmly. "I'm coming with you as co-pilot."
Genshiva studied them both, her antenna quivering with barely concealed emotion. Finally, she nodded.
"Very well. I will uphold our alliance pending the success of your missions. May the ancestors guide you both." As Dennis and Alter made their way to the specially modified shuttle, the weight of their tasks settled upon them. They boarded the craft in silence, each lost in their own thoughts as they prepared for launch. Dennis glanced at Alter as they strapped themselves in, taking in her new appearance. Despite the physical changes, he could still see the essence of the Alter he had come to know and trust.
"Ready?"
he asked, his hand hovering over the launch controls. Alter met his gaze, her large eyes filled with a mix of willpower and something deeper, born from their shared neural experience. "Ready?" she confirmed. The shuttle bay doors slid open, revealing the vast expanse of space, and in the distance, the ominous silhouette of the Doomsday device. As their small craft accelerated towards its target, Dennis and Alter knew that the fate of both their civilizations rested in their hands. The disruptor beam hummed to life, its energy building as they approached the device.
Alter's fingers danced over the controls, making minute adjustments based on her enhanced understanding of the alien technology.
Dennis kept the shuttle steady, his years of combat experience evident in his precise maneuvering. As they closed in on their target, alarms blared throughout the shuttle. The Doomsday device had detected their approach and was powering up its defenses. Dennis and Alter exchanged a quick glance, their recent neural connection allowing them to communicate volumes without words. They knew the real challenge was just beginning. As they approached their target, the true test of their partnership was about to unfold in ways neither of them could have anticipated. The shuttle bay doors slid open, revealing the vast expanse of space. In the distance loomed the ominous silhouette of the Doomsday device, its alien architecture a stark contrast to the familiar stars beyond. Dennis and Alter exchanged a final glance before launching their craft towards their objective. As they closed the distance, the rescue ship's urgent transmission crackled through their comm system. "Energy surge detected!" came the frantic voice of the sensor officer. "The device is powering up." Dennis's hands tightened on the controls as a pulsating force field erupted from the alien weapon, creating a shimmering barrier between them and their target. "Alter!" Dennis exclaimed, his voice filled with urgency.
"The force field's fluctuating," she said, her voice taut with concentration.
"There's a pattern to it, if we time it right." "I see it," Dennis replied, his years of combat experience kicking in. He banked the shuttle hard, narrowly avoiding a lethal discharge of energy. The craft shuddered as another blast grazed their port side, but Dennis's expert maneuvering kept them on course. Sweat beaded on his forehead as he threaded the shuttle through the maze of energy, relying on Alter's enhanced perception and his own instincts. With a final heart-stopping dodge, they broke through the barrier, emerging into the calm eye of the storm. "We're in position," Dennis announced, bringing the shuttle to a relative stop. "Alter, It's your show now. Alter nodded, her elongated fingers dancing over the controls as she activated the experimental disruptor beam. The alien technology salvaged from the ruins hummed to life, interfacing with the shuttle systems in ways they hadn't anticipated. Suddenly, a surge of power coursed through the craft. Alter gasped as her console erupted in sparks, the unexpected overload causing several non-essential systems to fail. The life support indicator flashed an angry red as their oxygen supply began to dwindle.
"What happened?" Dennis demanded, fighting to keep the shuttle stable. "The alien tech!"
Alter replied, her voice strained as she worked to control the surge.
"It's more powerful than we realized. I can handle it, but we don't have much time." The disruptor beam lanced out, striking the doomsday device.
At first, it seemed to have little effect, the alien weapon's defenses holding strong, but Alter, drawing on her newfound understanding of the technology, began to fine-tune the beam's frequency. "There," she murmured, her large eyes reflecting the pulsing energy before them. "I can see the resonance patterns. Just a little more." As Alter made her adjustments, the outer shell of the doomsday device began to crack.
Fissures spread across its surface, revealing a complex network of energy conduits beneath. "Alter, I think I see a weak point," Dennis said, pointing to a nexus where several conduits converged. "If we hit it there, it could trigger a cascade failure," Alter finished, already adjusting their aim. "But triggerage. But we'll need to get closer." Dennis nodded grimly, fully aware of the risk as he guided the shuttle nearer to the unstable weapon. Proximity alarms blared through the cockpit. The doomsday device, sensing the threat, released a massive pulse of energy. The shuttle rocked violently as the blast struck them. "Systems failing across the board." Dennis fought with the controls, but it was clear their propulsion system had taken heavy damage. "We're drifting," he reported, his voice tight with urgency. "Any ideas?" Alter's mind raced, considering and discarding options in rapid succession. Then her eyes lit up with a dangerous glint.
"I have a plan," she said, already unstrapping herself from her seat. "But you're not going to like it." As Alter outlined her daring proposal, Dennis felt a mix of admiration and fear. The plan was risky, perhaps even suicidal, but it was their only chance. "All right," he agreed reluctantly, helping Alter into a spacesuit. "But be careful out there. I can't lose you now." Their eyes met, and in that moment, the full weight of their shared experiences, the neural link, the transformation, the battles fought side by side, crashed over them. Without thinking, Dennis pulled Alter close and kissed her, pouring all his unspoken emotions into the gesture. When they parted, Alter's skin shimmered with an intensity that rivaled the stars outside. "I'll come back," she promised, her voice filled with perseverance. "We have too much left to do."
As Alter prepared to exit the airlock, Dennis turned his attention to the shuttle systems. He knew that repairing their propulsion was their only chance of escape once Alter completed her mission. With unyielding commitment, he set to work, cannibalizing non-essential components to cobble together a solution.
Outside the shuttle, Alter pushed off into the void, her transformed physiology allowing her to move with unprecedented grace in zero gravity. She navigated the treacherous space between the shuttle and the doomsday device, planting explosive charges at key points with swift precision. But as she worked, the device's defensive system sprang to life. Energy beams lanced out, forcing Alter to dodge and weave as she completed her task. Her enhanced reflexes were pushed to their limit as she danced through the deadly light show. Inside the shuttle, Dennis struggled against the effects of their failing life support. His vision blurred, and his movements became sluggish as oxygen deprivation set in. But he pushed through, knowing that their lives depended on his ability to get the engines running again. Just as Alter finished placing the final charge, disaster struck. A piece of debris torn loose from the damaged doomsday device slammed into her tether.
The impact sent her spinning away from the shuttle, drifting helplessly into the void. Dennis, seeing Alter in peril through the cockpit window, didn't hesitate. He secured himself to the shuttle with a spare cable and launched himself into space, propelling himself towards his partner with desperate speed. Their hands met in the vacuum of space, fingers intertwining as Dennis pulled Alter back towards safety. They tumbled through the airlock just as the oxygen supply reached critical levels, collapsing onto the shuttle's floor in a tangle of limbs and relief. With no time to catch their breath, Dennis scrambled to the controls. "Hold on," he warned,
activating the charges on the Doomsday device. The resulting explosion tore the alien weapon apart, but it also created a massive shockwave that raced towards their position. Dennis pushed their hastily repaired engines to their limit, piloting the shuttle away from the blast. The shockwave caught up to them, battering the small craft and threatening to tear it apart. Alarms blared as system after system failed, but Dennis and Alter worked in perfect synchronization, their combined skills keeping them alive against impossible odds. As they emerged from the debris field, battered but intact, they witnessed the spectacular destruction of the Doomsday device against the backdrop of space. The immediate threat had been neutralized, but both Dennis and Alter knew they had been changed by the ordeal. Their bond deepened by their shared brush with death. The calm of victory was short-lived as they limped back towards the Osean homeworld. Their communication system crackled to life, with Admiral Krill's voice demanding a status report. But before they could respond, multiple unidentified ships suddenly appeared on their scanners, emerging from what appeared to be a spatial rift. Dennis and Alter watched in stunned silence as the new arrivals, their design unlike anything human or Oclasian, began to move towards the planet. The implications of this development hung heavy in the air between them.
"What do we do now?" Alter asked, her voice barely above a whisper.
Dennis's mind focused as he studied the approaching ships. "We do what we always do," he replied, reaching out to take Alter's hand. "We face it together."
As the unknown fleet drew closer to the Ophasian homeworld, Dennis and Alter prepared themselves for whatever challenges lay ahead, knowing that the fate of both their species might once again rest in their hands. As the unknown fleet drew closer to the Ophasian homeworld, Dennis and Alter braced themselves for the next challenge. Their battered shuttle limped toward the planet, systems flickering and alarms blaring intermittently. "Incoming transmission from Admiral Krill," Alter announced, her elongated fingers dancing over the console. The Admiral's gruff voice filled the cockpit. "Sit rep now." Dennis leaned forward, his eyes fixed on the approaching ships. "Sir, we've neutralized the Doomsday device, but we've got company. Multiple unidentified vessels just emerged from what looks like a spatial rift." "I see them," Krill replied, his tone grim.
"All available ships are moving into defensive positions. Can you make it back to the surface?" Alter quickly assessed their damage. "Systems barely functional, sir. We'll need immediate repairs once we land."
"Understood. Get down here ASAP."
"We need every asset we have." As Dennis guided their shuttle through the planet's atmosphere, they watched the Ocasian defense fleet scramble to form a protective barrier around the world. Human ships, still present from their joint mission, moved to support their allies. The shuttle touched down with a jarring thud, the landing gear groaning under the stress. As they disembarked, a team of Ocasian technicians swarmed the craft, beginning urgent repairs. Admiral Krill strode towards them, his face a mask of controlled tension. "Walk with me," he ordered, leading them towards the command center. Inside, a holographic display showed the positions of the Ocasian, human fleet, and the unknown vessels. Dennis studied the formation, his tactical mind already formulating strategies.
"Sir," he said, pointing to the display, "their design is completely alien. But look at how they're positioning themselves."
"It's not an attack formation. They're creating a blockade." Krill nodded, his eyes narrowing. "The question is why? And more importantly, how do we respond?" Dennis glanced at Alter, an idea forming. "What if we try to communicate? Use the alien tech we salvaged from the ruins to broadcast a message?" Alter's eyes widened, the bioluminescent patterns on her skin pulsing with excitement.
"I could modulate the signal. My changes help me attune it more effectively."
Krill considered for a moment, then nodded.
"Do it, but be ready for anything."
As they prepared the transmission, tension mounted in the command center. Technicians worked feverishly to integrate the salvage technology with their systems, while Alter focused on fine-tuning the signals. Suddenly, a bright energy beam shot from the lead ship of the unknown fleet, striking the capital city. Panic erupted in the command center, but as the light faded, they realized there was no damage. Instead, a colossal holographic image filled the sky. The projection revealed a towering, ethereal being, its form shimmering with otherworldly energy. When it spoke, its voice seemed to resonate within their minds. "Greetings, children of Earth and Osea. I am Ambassador Zinix of the Guardians. We have watched your progress for millennia,
and now you have proven yourselves ready for the next step." A hushed silence fell over the command center. Dennis and Alter exchanged glances, their recent experiences leaving them more open to the extraordinary than most. Ambassador Zinx continued, explaining their role as guardians and the significance of the Human-Opasian alliance. As the holographic being extended an invitation to board their flagship, all eyes turned to Admiral Krill. The Admiral's expression was unreadable, as he activated a secure channel to confer with both Omasian and human leadership. Minutes stretched like hours, until he finally turned to address the room. "We have accepted the invitation," Krill announced, his gaze settling on Dennis and Alter. You two will be our primary representatives. Your actions have brought us to this point, and your unique bond represents the best of our alliance." As preparations began, Dennis and Alter found themselves swept into a whirlwind of activity. They underwent thorough medical examinations with an Omasian doctor, marveling at the extent of Alter's transformation. "Your DNA," one doctor explained, showing them a holographic model. "It contains sequences we've never seen before. The implications are staggering." As they boarded the shuttle that would take them to the Guardian flagship, Dennis felt the weight of responsibility settling on his shoulders. Alter sensed his unease and placed a hand on his arm, her touch conveying support and shared commitment. The shuttle lifted off, carrying them and a small team of diplomats and scientists towards the massive alien vessel. As they approached, a tractor beam enveloped them, guiding them into a vast docking bay. Stepping out of the shuttle, Dennis and Alter found themselves in an environment that defied easy description. Organic structures pulsed and flowed, seamlessly integrated with technology beyond their comprehension. Guardian attendant beings of pure energy, contained in human exoskeletons, greeted them silently and began to lead them through the ship. Each chamber they passed through revealed holographic displays of alien worlds and cosmic wonders that left the human and Oshisian visitors awestruck. As they entered the central meeting hall, Ambassador Zix materialized before them. The Guardian's presence filled the room with an energy that set every nerve on edge. "Welcome." Zix's voice resonated in their minds. "You stand at the threshold of a new era for your species. But first, you must prove yourselves worthy." The floor beneath their feet began to shift and transform, resolving into a complex three-dimensional maze. Before anyone could react, Dennis and Alter found themselves separated from the rest of the team, facing the entrance to the labyrinth. "Your trial begins now," Zix announced. "Navigate the maze, solve its puzzles, and confront the shadows of your shared history. Your performance will determine the future of both your species and the galactic community." Dennis and Alter shared a look of perseverance as they stepped into the maze. The walls shifted around them, presenting their first challenge, a holographic projection of the earliest conflicts between humans and Opasian. As they worked to unravel the puzzle before them, alarms blared in the Opasian command ships. Admiral Krill received an urgent transmission from Earth. The enemy fleet they thought defeated was regrouping, heading towards the Sol system. In the maze, Dennis and Alter pressed on, unaware of the new threat to their homeworlds. Their focus remained on the challenges ahead, each step bringing them closer to a future that would reshape the destiny of both their species in their shared bond. As they navigated the intricate passages of the Guardian's maze, Dennis and Alter faced holographic projections of their species' intertwined history. Each challenge tested not only their problem-solving skills, but also their understanding of one another. Their synchronized movements and unspoken communication spoke volumes about the depth of their connection. Hours seemed to pass as they progressed through the labyrinth, facing increasingly complex puzzles and moral dilemmas. Just as they felt their mental and physical resources nearing exhaustion, the final barrier dissolved, revealing a vast, shimmering chamber. Ambassador Zix materialized before them, its ethereal form pulsing with approval. "You have surpassed our expectations," the Guardian's voice resonated in their minds. "Your unique bond and complementary abilities mark you as exceptional candidates for advanced knowledge sharing." Before Dennis could respond, alarms blared throughout the ship. A holographic display flickered to life, showing a familiar and terrifying sight. The enemy fleet they thought defeated was regrouping, its trajectory aimed directly at the Sol systems. Zix's form shimmered with concern. "This threat is part of a greater galactic conflict, one that has raged for millennia across countless star systems. Your trial has proven your worth, but now you face a more immediate challenge." The Guardian gestured, and a small spherical object materialized between them. It pulsed with an inner light, its surface etched with intricate alien designs. This is the Nexus Orb, an ancient and powerful device capable of creating temporary wormholes for near-instantaneous travel across vast distances. It may be crucial in mounting a defense against the approaching enemy fleet. Dennis eyed the orb wearily. How does it work? It requires two operators with a strong neural connection, Zix explained. Your bond, forged through the Osean bonding ritual and strengthened by your shared experiences, makes you ideal candidates to harness its power. Alter reached out, her elongated fingers hovering over the orb's surface. The implications of this technology are staggering, she said. Zix's tone grew grave. Be warned. Improper use could result in an unstable wormhole, potentially tearing apart the fabric of space-time in the vicinity. The responsibility you now bear is immense. As Dennis and Alter prepared to board a shuttle back to the Osean command ship, the weight of their new mission settled heavily upon them. A Nexus orb secured in a containment field pulsed gently between them during their return journey. Alter suddenly gasped, doubling over in her seat. Dennis rushed to her side, watching in awe as her skin began to emit a soft, pulsating bioluminescence. Alter, what's happening? She looked up at him, her eyes wide with a mix of wonder and fear. I'm not sure. It feels like my body is adapting, changing in response to the Guardian technology. Dennis monitored her closely for the remainder of their flight, noting every fluctuation in her bioluminescence. As they docked with the Ohasian command ship, Admiral Krill and a team of human and Ohasian scientists rushed to meet them, their eyes fixed on the Nexus orb. Report! Krill barked, his gaze darting between Dennis, Alter, and the alien device. As Dennis quickly briefed the Admiral on their encounter with the Guardians and the function of the Nexus orb, Alter worked with the scientists to integrate the device with the ship's systems. The process was delicate, requiring a perfect balance between the alien technology and their own. Suddenly, a young Ocasian technician called out, "Sir, the enemy fleet has altered course. They're heading straight for us." Krill's expression hardened. They must have detected the orb's energy signature. We're out of time. You two, he pointed at Dennis and Alter. Get that thing operational. Now! Dennis and Alter hurried to a specially designed chamber where they could safely interface with the Nexus orb. As they made physical contact with the device, a jolt of energy surged through them. Their neural connection intensified, allowing them to perceive the complex energy flows required to generate a wormhole. Outside, the first wave of enemy ships dropped out of faster-than-light travel, immediately engaging the outer perimeter of the human Othasian defenses. The command ship shuddered as stray energy blasts impacted its shields. Inside the chamber, Dennis and Alter struggled to stabilize the forming wormhole. The energy required to maintain the portal strained both the ship's systems and their own bodies. Alter's bioluminescence intensified, her alien physiology adapting to channel the massive energy flows. It's not enough, Bound said. Dennis grunted, his hands trembling as he manipulated the orb's controls. We need more power to fully form the wormhole. Alter met his gaze, her eyes glowing with an inner light. We have to push harder. Our minds, our connection, it's the key. As enemy ships broke through the outer defenses and closed in on the command ship, Dennis and Alter made their decision. They opened their minds fully to each other in the Nexus orb, their consciousness merging with the ancient technology. The wormhole expanded rapidly, engulfing a large portion of space around the battling fleets. Dennis felt as if his very essence was being stretched across the cosmos, intertwined with Alter's. Their shared consciousness expanded, encompassing the vastness of space and the intricate dance of energy required to bend it to their will. In a blinding flash of light, both the human Ocasian alliance and the enemy fleet were transported across the galaxy. As the radiance faded and the crews regained their bearings, they found themselves in orbit around Earth, with the full might of the human home fleet arrayed before them. The sudden arrival and the presence of overwhelming human forces threw the enemy fleet into disarray. Admiral Krill's voice crackled over the comms, coordinating a massive counterattack that quickly turned the tide of battle. In the Nexus orb chamber, Dennis and Alter collapsed, their bodies pushed to the brink by the immense energies they had channeled. As their consciousness began to fade, they remained aware of each other, their minds still linked through the orb's residual energy. The last thing Dennis saw before blackness took him was Alter's face,
her features both alien and achingly familiar, glowing with an otherworldly light. Their hands remained intertwined, the Nexus orb pulsing softly between them as medical teams rushed to their aid. As unconsciousness claimed them, neither Dennis nor Alter could know the full consequences of their actions. They had saved 2 civilizations from imminent destruction, but the personal cost of their heroism remained uncertain. The battle raged on in Earth's orbit, its outcome yet to be determined, while the fate of the 2 heroes hung in the balance. As the last enemy ship exploded in a brilliant flash, silence fell over the bridge of the Occasion command ship. Admiral Krill exhaled slowly, his tentacles relaxing from their battle-ready posture.
"Status report," he barked, turning to his communications officer. "Sir, the enemy fleet has been neutralized. Earth's defense forces are mopping up the stragglers. We've sustained moderate damage to our outer hull, but all critical systems are operational." Krill nodded, his compound eyes scanning the tactical display. "And our heroes?" The officer's expression darkened. "Still unresponsive, sir. Medical teams are working to stabilize them." But before he could finish, alarms blared from the medical bay. Krill sprinted down the corridor, his feet barely touching the ground, as he raced towards the source of the commotion. Inside the medical bay, a scene of controlled chaos unfolded. Human and ocean medical staff swarmed around 2 prone figures on separate beds. Dennis and Alter lay motionless, their hands still clasped around the pulsing Nexus orb. Dr. Elena Rodriguez, her dark hair pulled back in a tight bun, barked orders as she worked. "We need to separate them from the orb without severing their neural connection. Healer Zorn, I need your bioresonance equipment here now." The Occasion healer, his long fingers dancing over a complex array of holographic controls, nodded tersely, initiating a bioresonance scan.
"We must proceed with extreme caution. Their neural patterns are unlike anything I've ever seen."
Hours ticked by as the medical team worked tirelessly. Krill paced outside, joined by a rotating cast of anxious human and Ocean officials. Finally, after what seemed an eternity, Rodriguez emerged, her face etched with exhaustion but her eyes bright with triumph. "We've done it," she announced. "They're stable and separated from the orb." But she hesitated, glancing back at the medical bay. "Their minds are still linked." The merge was far more profound than we anticipated. Inside, Dennis and Alter lay side by side, their bodies no longer in physical contact, but their brains pulsing with synchronized activity. Side. Alter's skin shimmered with a soft bioluminescent glow that seemed to ebb and flow in time with Dennis's breathing. Dr. Rodriguez turned to Healer Zorn. "We need to separate their consciousness carefully. I propose using a combination of our neural interface technology and your species' empathic resonance techniques." Zorn's antenna twitched in agreement. "A bold plan, but our only option. We must act quickly before their merged state becomes permanent." The procedure that followed pushed the boundaries of both human and Occasion medical science. As Dr. Rodriguez carefully manipulated the neural interface, Healer Zorn guided the separation through subtle adjustments to the bioresonance field surrounding the patients. Suddenly, Dennis's eyes flew open, followed a split second later by Alter's. They gasped in unison, their bodies arching off the beds as if pulled by invisible strings. "Dennis!" Alter cried out, her voice thick with emotion. "Alter!" Dennis responded, reaching for her instinctively. I can feel you in my mind." Dr. Rodriguez leaned over them, her face a mix of concern and fascination. "Dennis, Alter, can you hear me? Do you know where you are?" They turned to her, their eyes focusing with uncanny synchronization. When they spoke, it was in perfect unison, their voices blending human and Opasian tones. "We remember everything," they said. "The battle, the orb, the wormhole. We saved them all." Over the following days, Dennis and Alter underwent a battery of tests and examinations. The medical staff marveled at the changes in their neural architecture. New pathways had formed, blending human and Opasian thought patterns in ways never before seen. Alter's bioluminescence, triggered by her exposure to Guardian technology, had stabilized into intricate patterns that danced across her skin. Dennis found himself drawn to these shimmering designs, his fingers tracing their contours as if reading a map of their shared experiences. As they recovered, news of their heroism spread throughout both fleets. Human and Occasion crew members alike stopped them in the corridors, offering thanks and words of awe. Dennis and Alter accepted the praise with humility, their newfound connection allowing them to seamlessly trade off speaking duties.
Weeks passed, and the day of the grand ceremony arrived. The newly constructed Harmony Spire on Earth stood as a gleaming testament to the new era of human-Altesian cooperation. Dennis and Alter, resplendent in specially designed uniforms that honored both their species, stood before a sea of faces representing worlds that had once been at war. As the human Prime Minister and Otesian High Chancellor announced the formation of the new Joint Scientific and Exploratory Organization, Dennis felt a swell of emotion from Alter. He turned to her, marveling at how her once alien features now seemed as familiar and beloved as his own reflection. "Company leaders of this historic initiative," the Prime Minister's voice boomed, "we present Captain Dennis Chen and Commander Alter X Tally." The crowd erupted in cheers as Dennis and Alter stepped forward, their hands clasped in a gesture that bridged galaxies. As the applause washed over them, Dennis leaned close to Alter, whispering words meant only for her.
"Look how far we've come," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "From that first awkward meeting to this.
You're incredible, Alter, not because of how you've changed, but because of who you've always been."
Alter's skin pulsed with a soft, rosy glow, her species equivalent of a blush.
"And you,"
she replied, her multifaceted eyes shimmering.
"You saw me, the real me, from the very beginning." As the ceremony concluded, they found themselves on a quiet balcony overlooking the sprawling cityscape. The stars above seemed closer now, more inviting than ever before. Dennis turned to Alter, taking both her hands in his. "I love you," he said simply, the words carrying the weight of their shared journey. Alter's bioluminescence flared brilliantly, her joy radiating from every pore. "And I love you, Dennis, more than I ever thought possible."
Their lips met in a kiss that seemed to contain universes as they embraced. Their silhouettes merged against the glittering backdrop of the city, a living symbol of the bright future they had forged together. But even as they savored this moment of triumph and connection, both knew that greater challenges lay ahead. The Nexus orb technology held the key to unprecedented exploration, and with it, unknown dangers. As they broke their embrace, Dennis and Alter shared a look of persistence. Their next great adventure was about to begin.